Hello everyone. Welcome to our panel, What Your Customers Really Want. I am Lucy, some familiar faces in the room. A lot of the clients I work with and brands I work with are here, which is really exciting. And I spend a lot of my day as a customer success manager talking about this exact topic. RIXO is a brand that I work with, and Emma's on our panel today. So I want to kick off with some introductions.
So yeah, I'm Angela. I'm head of CRM at Ego. Ego is a fast fashion brand. We've been going about 8 years now. Predominantly, we're just selling footwear, but in the last couple of years, we've gone into clothing, which has been hugely successful for us. And we've actually launched our first plus size collection this month as well.
And I'm Emma. I'm the head of digital at RIXO, so I oversee performance marketing, e-com, and also CRM. For those of you who don't know RIXO, we are a women's wear clothing brand. We had 3 stores in London, and we've recently just opened a pop-up in New York, so very exciting.
Hi, I'm Victoria. I'm head of CRM at Craft Gin Club. We are a gin and now rum in a box subscription and spirit retailer.
And hi everyone, I'm Laura. I'm the head of digital marketing at Wolf & Badger. We are a global marketplace for independent brands and designers. And yeah, I look after a number of digital channels, including CRM.
Thank you. So when we think about what customers really want, I think there's the obvious incentives, which I am guilty of myself, but we also think about ease, choice, and being truly understood as key levers that customers want to see in their buying experience. So I'm going to start with you today, Angela. I want to ask you, at Ego, how do you use customer data and feedback channels to decide how you want to communicate with your customers?
So yeah, at Ego, we are a pretty lean team, and probably like most businesses, have to kind of make the best use of the resources that we've got readily available to us. So as I mentioned in the intro, it was only fairly recently that we went into clothing, and that actually brought quite a lot of challenges for the business that we hadn't necessarily foresaw. So things around quality, sizing, returns. So we wanted to understand that a little bit more from a customer perspective and the challenges that we were seeing in terms of customer experience. So we simply just looked at kind of the customer touch points that we've got. So obviously our customer service team, and then any other sort of customer feedback channels that we've got. So things like Mention Me, Trustpilot, and bringing all of those together. And what was quite clearly evident from us doing that was that she absolutely loves our product, but we weren't meeting her needs at some of that customer journey, whether that was pre or post purchase. And there was certainly some challenges along the way. So having identified that, it was then quite relatively easy to put some new processes in place. So we simply, and a couple of examples being streamlining the returns process and being more transparent and improving communications around what we call our pre-order items, so really popular items that she can order before they're actually in stock. And we've seen some really good results on the back of that. So as examples, our Trustpilot score went from 3.1 up to 4, NPS improved by 10%, and contact on kind of returns issues reduced by 15% as well.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that as well, what's worked really well for us at RIXO is sending our customers surveys via our email database. It sounds really simple, but it allows you to segment your customers, so whether it's your active customers, your lapsed customers, and really understanding what the customer wants. And often it just reflects what we are thinking anyway and what we have in the roadmap, but it really helps us prioritise what that looks like and make sure that we are doing things right.
Cool. Thank you. So Laura, I'm going to come to you next. I know that Wolf & Badger leveraging Architect, which has been mentioned in Ivan's talk and throughout today, and as part of that process, we've created AI-generated audiences for Wolf & Badger. Some of those include frequent visitors, the US buyers. We also have hesitant buyers as well. So I kind of wanted to ask you how you're using AI in a little bit more detail to understand customer preferences.
Firstly, yes, that's right. We're using Architect and we're super excited. We've just kicked off, so unfortunately no major learnings to share at this point, but we can't wait to see how it impacts our email performance. To go back to your question though about the role that AI has in helping us evolve and address the different customer needs and preferences, I'd say AI is there to make our lives easier by simplifying tasks and helping us make better decisions. AI and Architect in this particular case allows us to sift through huge amounts of customer data and identify patterns and like pockets of opportunity. And by understanding these patterns and these customer behaviors better, we're able to segment our customer base much more effectively and start treating these different customer groups slightly differently. You mentioned some of the audiences that Architect has helped us identify, such as the US big spenders and the hesitant buyers. These two customer groups behave very, very differently. There's not just regional and cultural differences to account for, but they're also at very different stages in their customer journey with us. So, one group has already purchased from us, they're spending a lot of money, so the types of products and messages that we serve to these people needs to be very different to what we serve someone who is deciding whether they want to shop with us. And really getting to a point where we've analyzed all of this customer data to identify who these people are, how big of an opportunity this is for us as a business, it would have been humanly impossible without the help of AI and Architect in this case. And also just the simplicity of feeding that into Ametria. It's really made our lives much easier and simpler, and I think that's how marketers need to lean into AI to really simplify their day-to-day.
Cool, thank you. I think a lot of people in the room have already asked me questions on Architect and want to kind of understand the experience so far, so you might be having some people come up to you after. But yeah, Victoria, if I pivot slightly to you, how easy do you think it is for a customer to tell the difference between AI and human, and how are you striking the balance currently at Crafting
So
Club?
we're also trialling the Architect product, which is really exciting. We're, I think, a step behind you, so I can't wait to see kind of what it can do for us as well. We were talking about this a little bit on the roundtables earlier, and I think on a copy front, I think human input is essential into both that briefing process and also the editing process as well, to make it keep sounding natural. So I have done some testing recently, testing both ChatGPT and the Ametria AI copywriter, and the results so far are kind of showing more or less on par. It's not too different. I don't think our customers can tell too much. But that is to say, I think the key is that we have human creative input into both that briefing process and the editing process in order to not make it obvious. Because if you just use a tool like ChatGPT without a good brief or personalising the prompt or even personalising the tool, then yes, hugely obvious. So I think that we need to make sure that we are keeping that creativity and that human input in order to keep making it sound natural and human.
Cool. Yeah, if we stick with you then on that kind of topic, because I think, as you said, a machine can't understand the empathy needed always to understand how someone wants to be spoken to and on what topics. So I've seen, as a CSM, a big rise in customers adding the option to opt out of those sensitive topics throughout the journey with the brand. But I wondered, do you think that's the best approach, or how are you kind of approaching those sensitive topics?
So now our industry is kind of very used to sending these opt-out of sensitive events. They're pretty much standard industry practice at the moment. But I think we can keep improving on it to make sure that we are actually being, kind to our customers. I think that's really important. And I've heard a lot from other industry professionals and also from our customers that these are actually becoming painful, specifically when there's so many of us sending these in bulk in that kind of week before Mother's Day or Father's Day. You're getting a huge amount of emails asking you whether you want to hear about it. So I think we need to kind of give customers back that choice and asking for their preferences. And there's a couple of ways that you can do it without opening that pain for them. And one is when they first engage with your brand. So include this in the welcome sequence. Ask them then what their preferences are. And on that as well, update your preference center. So something that we've been working on recently is updating that preference center to not only include these sensitive events moments, but also more granularity so that we can really understand our customer. And maybe, yeah, maybe with all of that in mind, we can kind of start to be truly thoughtful again and get to know our customers more on a personal level.
Thank you. Yeah, I think having the option and having it in the preference centre so that throughout the journey with the brand, an end user can come back to that preference centre and be flexible throughout the lifetime of the brand, because those preferences and those topics might change throughout the journey. Cool. So Laura, come to you next. How does Wolf & Badger strike the balance between using customer data to enhance the shopping experience without being invasive?
That's actually a really good question, which came up in my roundtable earlier. So, at Wolf & Badger, we really care about the quality of our experiences, whether you're in our store, on our website, or subscribe to our customer list. I think the key to not being invasive is to make sure that your customers feel like they're getting something valuable from your interaction with your brand. So, in order to do this, we leverage customer data to create some targeted email campaigns. And we ensure that these are based on relevant customer interactions, such as browsing a product on the site, purchase history. So we have some really thought out automation email journeys. So for example, if you've been on our website and you've been browsing a product or added it to your wish list or to your cart, and that product becomes discounted, you'll receive our price drop campaign informing you that that product is now slightly cheaper. Or if you've been browsing our sale and you leave our site without purchasing, you might receive an email giving you an added discount. And these types of campaigns that are based on relevant customer interactions really show our customers that they're getting something valuable in exchange for that customer data, and they're making them feel rewarded and making them more likely to share that customer with other their customer data with other brands. But also, and I'm sure like everyone in this room are probably also doing it, we have the right frequency caps in place. So we're also limiting the number of emails that any given customer can receive on a weekly basis to make sure that we're not overwhelming them with communications and being invasive. But yeah, the key really is to make sure that you're showing that exchange of value by getting them to share their data with you.
Thank you. Cool. I want to shift the focus slightly now. So if we think about the experience and understanding what the preferences are and what the customers want from an in-store versus online perspective, I know, Emma, at RIXO you have in-store presence, so I want to ask what your top 3 pieces of advice are for blending the omni-channel experience between online and in-store.
Yeah, well, I guess the first one will probably sound really obvious, but it's to understand your customer data. I think we can hold our hands up in RIXO and say we've got so much data, but often there's always like another priority or there's a trading focus. And I guess my piece of advice would be to take a step back, understand who your customer is, understand what that data is telling you, and it will make you more efficient in the longer run. And we've definitely made those mistakes where we've taken a little bit too long to do that, and so you can just see the importance in doing that. I think secondly would be to make sure the conversation doesn't stop in head office. Often, like far too often, you just speak about those e-com customers, what are they doing, really understanding it from an e-com point of view, but it's never been more important to speak to the store team. So one thing that we do at RIXO is at the end of the day, there is a store email that goes out and it talks about the customers that have gone in, and it makes sure that we have those interactions because ultimately they're the people that are speaking to the customers day in, day out. So that would be really important. And then my third one, again, might sound a bit obvious, but making sure that you are doing everything personalised and it's not a one-size-fits-all. I know it's often sometimes easier said than done, but really thinking about, okay, what are those simple techniques we can do to make this really feel special to the customer? And one of those that we do is actually a letter from our co-founders, but I think for anybody that could be adapted, whether it's an email from your customer care team, an email from your store staff, and it really bridges that gap between store and online as well. Yeah, they'd be my 3.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that, well, I work with Razia and Wittard, and I've been working with lots of different brands on the post-purchase journey, particularly when there's a big in-store presence, so testing which products work better to show if they've come to you first as a retail buyer, and then trying to move them onto online and get them across both. So I think, yeah, seeing great results in kind of tailoring that, adding the branch manager as well with some brands, and it's working well.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Laura then, what is the kind of role of physical stores for Wolf & Badger?
I'd say we're pretty unique in the way that we understand our stores actually, because we really leverage them beyond traditional shopping experiences. You know, as a marketplace, most of our sales come from our online website, and as new generations and customers get more and more comfortable with online shopping and brands put mechanisms in place to make online shopping easier, we feel that the role of the physical stores has evolved, and they've become places where you don't just go there to shop from a brand. For us specifically, our stores are extensions of our brands in every single way. So we host a number of events and workshops and panels across all of our different locations, London, LA, New York, on a very regular basis, because we want to provide both our brands and our customers with opportunities to engage with each other, to foster meaningful connections. And we truly think that by providing this space to our brands and our customers, we're able to drive longer term loyalty and also create a sense of community. And you know, I actually think this is one of the answers to the theme of the panel, which is what do customers really want? We really think that customers want to engage with brands beyond just purely shopping from them. You know, they want to learn from them, they want to engage with them, they want to like live through them. And that's kind of how we see the role of physical stores at Wolf & Badger.
Cool. Okay, gonna jump to the other side of things with Angela. So Ego, you don't have in-store presence. How are you still able to create that relationship with the customer and create genuine relationships with the customer without that in-store presence?
So for us, having kind of pop-up events, experiential marketing events, that's kind of where we would bridge that gap, because absolutely, you know, we've been talking about customers kind of wanting more from brands, to feel like a brand understands them. And thinking about Ego, our audience is that Gen Z audience who, you know, just expects that. They really want to feel that the brand sort of gets them, they understand them. So that's where we use these events, where we would create sort of a really cool event at a fabulous location, invite sort of current customers, potential customers, influencers, and put on some like great activities, have product there, they can take product away. And this is something we're actually working on now for the sort of a bit of a plus size activation event, as I sort of mentioned in the intro. And we know, like, we do these events quite often, and we absolutely do see the return on investment. And it isn't about us saying, oh, we've invested X amount and proving that we're sort of getting that on the bottom line, because we get so much from doing these events. We get chance to meet with our customers, because, you know, we've said that's kind of lacking in not having that store presence. Build relationships with them, build relationships with the influencers, which are really important for our business, and create amazing brand content as well at these events. So owned content and organic content as well, which is really important for us. So I guess for us, these events are really important, and I think probably have a place for sort of many businesses. But I think it comes back to that sort of question of understanding kind of, well, what does that event look like for your customers? What would they want?
Thank you. You mentioned pop-ups, and I know RIXO launched your New York pop-up
last week.
Last week,
Yeah.
Congratulations. So yeah, I kind of wanted to pivot then to you and talk about loyalty and your VIP audience particularly, because for those that aren't investing in a loyalty scheme and want to do that in-house, I kind of want to get some tips from you on how you can still reap the benefits from that.
Yeah, I guess the word loyalty gets thrown around quite a lot. I think probably everybody in this room has had that conversation of what loyalty actually means to their customer, but also to their brand. So that's definitely a consideration from our point of view, that we want to make sure that loyalty stays true to who we are. And from RIXO's perspective, one of the things that we do is make sure that everybody feels part of a community. So that is making sure that if you're subscribed to our emails, for example, you're getting a benefit. So one of the things that we do is access to our online archive, so our discounted products. So if you sign in, you get first access. We also do exclusive access to our collections 48 hours early. And it's those small benefits that really help the customer feel like they are part of the brand. And then you mentioned VIPs as well. So we kind of look at our VIPs, but also what we call a VIP -1. So that part of customers that we want to move to VIPs. And one of the things that we have been doing for a number of years actually is sending them a Christmas card. So we send a handwritten Christmas card, it gets passed around the head office, everybody takes their turn at writing what goes in there, but with a monetary voucher, and that works really well. And that's something that hopefully we're going to try and do more of throughout the year. I think, again, often it stops, we've done one thing, but we want to make sure that we're saying, okay, how do we treat those VIPs differently all the way through the year? So.
You mentioned community there, so I want to focus in a bit more on that and ask you, what have your learnings been so far, and how does that help you address customer expectations?
Yeah, I think for RIXO, community is definitely, I guess, a buzzword as well. And we've been really lucky, since our co-founders founded their brand, they created a hashtag, so it's called Humans of RIXO. But ultimately, it's meant we've always had this foundation to go back to for our community. So that works really well, but I guess it also has challenges, especially as we grow. We started off very much organically, a very existing base of very loyal customers. But ultimately, over the past few years, we've been trying to grow that. We've had huge customer acquisition. And really the challenge is, how do we keep that sense of community as we grow? So we have brainstorming sessions internally, and one of the things that we've done recently is made sure that we are not always focusing on like demand revenue straight away. We're not saying, okay, we're going to do this activity and it's going to deliver X. And one of those initiatives that we had was a supper club. So we actually do a monthly supper club, and you can buy tickets, but it just means that it brings like-minded individuals together to have those conversations, and keeps that community feel to the brand as well. So that's worked really well. So excited to do lots and more, and maybe one on a bigger scale.
Amazing, thank you. So Angela, for Ego, if you had to give top 3 loyalty levers that are most important to your customer, what would they be and why?
So obvious probably for most brands, I think, and is for us, number 1 would be products. So for us, it's really making sure that that's still central to everything that we do, because that's kind of a big part of our portfolio. And if we kind of lose sight of that, then, we probably just become kind of like any other fast fashion brand. And that's what she, predominantly comes to us for. I think number 2 would be reliability. So she absolutely wants to make that purchase on a Thursday, Friday, ready for the weekend, for going out, or whether it's an occasion, and be confident that she's got that product in her hand for then. And then when she's got that product in her hand, for whether it's that dress or boots or heels, that she's happy with that for the price that she's paid in terms of kind of like quality. And then I'd say 3rd would be around, which I think ties nicely into both of those, is around perceived value. So again, I've already mentioned around kind of like the product and kind of offering something that she might find difficult to buy elsewhere. So, for example, like, you could probably pick up a £5-10 black handbag from lots of different places, but she'd happily come to us and maybe pay £45 for that. And that's not, a designer bag, but she pays that because she perceives that it's kind of like, the latest catwalk look, or it's akin to sort of something that she's sort of seen from kind of a favourite designer. So we're creating kind of that value exchange with her. And so for us, it's kind of like, how do we keep maintaining that value exchange? So obviously she keeps coming back to us. So back to the point to summarise, absolutely product, reliability, and then that perceived value. I think those are the 3 loyalty levers for Ego.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. So staying on that with the thought around the value of a product, and I guess linking them to discounting, Emma, at RIXO, you have a bit of a no-go zone around discounting, but I'll let you go into that in a second. But I wanted to know, how do you incentivize new customers and keep your existing customer base happy if you're not relying on discounts?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for us, as you mentioned, we try and think about, okay, what are our USPs? Why do we want the customer to come to RIXO, rather than just giving a discount away to get her over the line? So that's something that we consider across all our touch points, whether that's email, performance marketing, and we make sure that we take those back to the roots of the brand. So we talk about the fit, the fabric, the fact our co-founder still hand paints all of the prints. So those small touch points make it feel, I guess, special, and why the customer is paying a premium price for a product versus going elsewhere to a competitor. So that is something we try and reflect across all comms and make sure that's really clear. But I guess to your question on discounts, yes, we try and steer away from them, but I think like most brands, we definitely do have discount periods. And for us, again, it's making sure that it feels true to RIXO and right for the brand. So just recently, actually, it was our King Road's flagship first birthday. So we did a 15% discount for 24 hours only. And that worked really well because it felt like we had a story behind it. We weren't just saying, okay, we're going into sale, we're going into markdown, or we're going to give you 20% off to shift loads of stock. We made the customer feel like they were part of it, and having that story to tell is really nice. So definitely, again, something that we'd like to do more of, but also making sure that the customer just doesn't learn to expect it and isn't holding out to say, okay, I know they do a 15-20% discount at the end of every April, for example, so I'm just going to wait then to shop. That surprise and delight element is really nice.
Thank you. A final question, Victoria. So for a subscription brand like Craft Gin Club, what kind of methods help keep customers interested while retailers are reviving and not yet thriving?
Yeah, so we've been on that journey. So we went through that retail COVID boom where parcels pretty much replaced nights out. And our customers really felt that. And those days, they wanted novelty, excitement, surprise from the things that they were getting. But a lot has changed since then, and people are cutting back, and our customers are cutting back on the novelties and the luxuries. So we can't rely on that sense of surprise anymore, which we did use as a main selling point in all of our new member marketing. So these days, we need to make sure that we are giving customers that good value for money. I think that's the key point, is that they know that our product isn't just a novelty, and we communicate that quite well now in all of our member marketing, actually. We're properly we're supporting some amazing distillers. Yeah. I think that's the point, and we really do put that in all of our marketing going forward. So we don't just rely on that surprise element to carry us through anymore. And our product hasn't really changed, but the way that we market it has, and it's actually been really good for retention too. So retention starts at acquisition. We need to make sure that the customer is really benefiting and really seeing that value from the products that they're getting delivered.
Cool. Yeah, I think we discussed that if you're going to start off the journey with the customer using the surprise element, as they become more mature as a customer with you, they're not going to find it as exciting. Mm-hmm. So kind of thinking about using, as it's been echoed in the last few questions, the value, relying on the value of the product, the history of the brand, instead of those short-term quick win levers where possible. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that is it for our panel today. So thank you, everyone. We have touched on topics of personalization, of the in-store and online experience. We've also touched on AI and sensitivity. And yeah, if you guys have any questions for anyone on the panel in one of the breaks, please do grab one of the ladies to ask those. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you.